Thank you, Barbara. Hey, we got a full house. Good evening. Good evening, happy Earth Day, and welcome to SYRCL's State of the Yuba. There's a special moment of joy for those of us who know him. We have an activist in the House who made it on the front page of the Union, not for decades and decades of working to save rivers in California, but for a bike accident, and he's here with us tonight, Bob Center. Hey, Bob, we are so happy to see you in Wanda. We're a community, we take care of our own, and we are so happy that you are here and looking good. Thank you for coming out. It's like, first public appearance, State of the Yuba. He's like, oh no, I've already been out a lot. Welcome. So I think most of you know that Earth Day started in 1970. And for the past 45 years, this day has served to really raise our collective consciousness about the environment and to focus our activism to heal and protect the earth. And that's basically what we're trying to do here with State of the Yuba tonight on a local level, on a local scale. How can we act locally to protect, raise our environmental consciousness, and what can we do to make a difference? And what you've done is be here, be part of this organization. So it's very exciting to me that we get to share what we do and invite you to participate and to thank those of you who are already participating and have done so for so long, because this is our watershed, right? This is where we live, where we work, where we play, where we raise kids. I'm so happy to see children here tonight. You know, I think those of us who were kids on the river, it's instant child again every time you hit those rocks on a warm day. So very important. But you know, it's challenging times. I guess it's always been challenging times on this planet for us. And I think part of the reason that we have these challenges is because we've had long periods of this sort of perceived abundance, right? There's always going to be, we've always felt there's always going to be enough of everything, right? There's always going to be plenty of animals, plenty of fish, trees, open spaces, and especially plenty of water. And this is where I get to play with my toy. Drought. I think scarcity is going to become the great teacher, right? We're having record droughts. Everything we talk about is record droughts. Climate scientists are predicting hotter and hotter years to come. So in this new, drier world, our activism and our leadership as a community on water issues will become more important than ever. And the focus of SYRCL's work, our advocacy, as it has been for 32 years, thank you, 32 years, SYRCL. Our focus is all about water. Water quality, water flow, water supply for all of us. So our responsibility as an activist organization is to be prepared, to serve as the voice for the river, to mobilize river lovers to defend against threats to the Yuba whenever necessary. What a charge, and yet we've built a place where this can happen. And I want to tell you a story that reinforces for me, and I think you'll agree, what we've done here. We've created a place where power and change can happen. So here's the story. Several years ago, a woman named Susan had a dream, and her dream was to live in a small cabin by the river. She lived in Redwood City, and her dream was to live by the river. And finally, she scrimped and saved, and she bought a house up at the summit at 6,200 feet with 500 feet of river frontage, and she was like, my dream has come true. And then one day, she smelled a terrible, terrible smell. Something wasn't right. So she tracked down the smell to the Donner Summit Public Utilities District wastewater plant in Soda Springs, right there at the headwaters. And she knew she needed help. She wasn't someone who'd taken on anything like this before. And I'm going to say she looked in the yellow pages because I think that's how far back this goes. Maybe she looked online and she found SYRCL. And she hadn't heard of SYRCL. She'd only been to Nevada City once, but she made the call. And guess what? Staff person took that call, visited the plant with her, figured something wasn't right, validated that for her, and started drawing more and more attention, working with SYRCL, working with other people, drawing more attention to this funny smell. And this is the beautiful Summit Headwaters where she lives. I could see that as a dream, right? So as a result, here's the good news. As a result, this plant, Donner Summit plant, has undergone an $18 million upgrade. It is now a state-of-the-art facility. It's something we can all be proud of, and it's something we can thank the taxpayers and ratepayers in Soda Springs in that area for stepping up and doing the right thing. This is a success story. This is what we mean when we say we're uniting the community to protect the river. What do you think? So river advocacy takes many forms. Sometimes we rally to the call of a single individual like Susan. Sometimes we answer to the whole community. That's what happened in 2011 and 2012 when SYRCL rallied to keep the South Yuba River State Park from closing. That was a big win, right? And that's what happened again last year when we partnered with SYRPA, whose table is over here, and we partnered with Nevada County, and Allison Lehman and Dan Miller are here, and we partnered with the Chamber of Commerce and other groups to convince the governor, to convince the legislature to allocate the money necessary to repair and reopen the Bridgeport Covered Bridge. So SYRPA's here tonight. Ginny, Doug, and Shirley are over there. Go up and talk to them. Get signed up. Be part of continuing the advocacy work around protecting this wonderful bridge. So when SYRCL says we're all about uniting the community, we don't use geography as an excuse to shy away from an issue, whether it's on the summit, like Susan's place, or out on the San Juan Ridge. Now, we've been talking about this for a while, and when we all first heard about the proposal to reopen the San Juan Ridge, we instantly saw that it had enormous potential watershed-wide negative impacts. Those of you who've been through this in the 90s remember that the last time the mine operated, the operator struck an aquifer, said it wouldn't happen, right? He had a good plan, but he struck an aquifer. He hit the water, and it drained the surrounding wells of many residents, the elementary school, the health clinic, and many others. Devastating, right, to lose your water. Then the excess mine water didn't just affect people locally. It went down the creeks, scouring the creeks to bedrock, and putting millions of gallons of untreated water directly into the South Yuba River. Now this operator is back, right, with a new proposal. It's going to be better this time, but even in his own report, he predicts that the operation on a standard day will drain 3.7 million gallons per day.
How much is that worth?
That's worth something. That's worth something. We're worth a lot to me if it was coming out of my well. And that's every day for years, draining out of that place, you know, as they de-water so they can dig underground. So we question whether this is a good use of water ever, whether it's a good use of water during a drought, and whether there might not be other alternatives for this land in a settled community than mining. Maybe there's something else we could do that'll be good for the community with that land. Now I told you all of this last year, so here's what's new. The environmental review was supposed to be well underway by now. Instead, it's been well over a year since the mine operator unilaterally halted well monitoring that the county required. The well monitoring was needed to establish current conditions and give us a pre-project baseline. And that's the only way, that type of information is the only way we can measure the impact of a project. Therefore, the San Juan Ridge Taxpayers Association is requesting that the county drop the mine operator's permit application. That makes sense to me, right? What do you think? So Saul Henson, president of the taxpayers, is in the corner there, but he will be over here at this table. There'll be information. If you want to get involved in this important work, or is it there? Over there. Then sign up, because that's part of what we're doing tonight, is getting you organized and getting you to pick your favorite project where we need your energy. So make sure that you take advantage of that. So we think it's a pretty big challenge for SYRCL to stay focused on the Yuba River and the Yuba River watershed, all 1,300 square miles of it, right? But we can't ignore NID's proposal to build Parker Dam. Parker Dam proposal would entail a 170-foot tall new dam on the Bear River. It would inundate 6 miles of river between Rawlins and Combi reservoirs. And while the Bear River is in a different watershed, the Bear is not separate from the Yuba. More than half of the headwaters flow from the Yuba is diverted to the Bear River. Most of the summer flow in the Bear River is Yuba River water, and new uses or new demands on that water may have implications for the Yuba. We want to understand any impacts from the proposed Parker Dam. And we are so pleased, and I really mean this, I am so pleased that the general manager has reached out to SYRCL and invited us to be part of a stakeholder process. And we are committed to giving the proposal a fair hearing. But please be assured, we plan to be actively engaged in monitoring that proposal very, very closely. And we are going to coordinate our efforts with our colleagues in the Foothill Waters Network to be educated and organized if need be. So if you too want to learn more, be involved in learning more and then being prepared, go over and see Tracy Sheehan, who will also be over on this table representing the Foothill Water Network. And there's Tracy waving her hand in the back. All right? So pay attention to that face if you care about this issue and want to be involved in it. So advocacy issues come and they go, and sometimes we win and sometimes we don't, but some things we are in, some advocacy work is for the long haul. And trying to restore Yuba salmon, which are in jeopardy of extinction, is one of those advocacy efforts for the long haul. I see you clapping. Yay! Because we all recognize that it's not just salmon. Salmon are indicators of river health. You know, it's like a cliche, but it's worth repeating. They are our canaries in the coal mine. If salmon thrive, the Yuba River thrives too. So our salmon campaign is based on 3 science-based strategies: advocacy, restoration, and education. So thanks to our advocacy and that of American Rivers, who's been our partners for so long, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and we have been petitioning Congress for like a decade on this. So again, this takes a long time. Congress finally appropriated the money to do a feasibility study to actually direct the Corps to tell us once and for all what it would take to get fish over Englebright. And some people are very pessimistic about a Corps study. And some of us are hoping, you know, maybe too optimistically, that maybe we'll get some good information out of that. We certainly are going to be on top of the Corps. We're writing and calling the Corps. We want a meeting with the Corps because we want to make sure that this study is useful, because the study is going to have to follow the Corps' 3x3 rule, which is really a fun rule. It means that no government study by the Corps can cost more than $3 million. It can't take more than 3 years to complete. And most importantly, for those of us who don't like to read, it can't be more than 3 inches thick. This is no joke, folks. Welcome to the Army. So you got to hit these issues from lots of different directions, right? One of the areas is a lot of people at SYRCL, they just like to roll up their sleeves and do something on the river that makes a difference. And so we're so proud of our restoration efforts that are underway. Many of you have already heard about the effort that we started a few years ago, planting trees. 6,800 trees were planted, and they were planted on barren gravels. You know, Gary Reedy, who ran that effort, conceptualized it. People were like, you can't do that. How are they going to grow in gravel? Figured out a way to get the what do you call that? The cuttings deep into the gravel, and now those trees, they're growing strong, they're growing tall, and we're proving that riverbanks that were once devastated by hydraulic mining can be brought back to life. It's pretty beautiful. Did I mention we're in this for the long haul? That's why we're focused on education. Education is at the heart of the Yuba Salmon Now campaign because a lot of us, myself included, and I grew up here, we grew up here not even knowing that salmon once teemed in the Yuba. Now, we're going to make sure, we're going to correct that, make sure that the kids of today, Allison's kids are here, we're going to make sure that Allison's kids and where's the other? There were two other kids I saw here too. That the kids of today, the kids of tomorrow are not only going to know and learn about salmon, we're going to take them out to the river and hopefully get them to be salmon activists too. And that's why we do these salmon tours. We take hundreds of community members, lots of school groups on rafts and riverbank tours so that they can see the fish, because really, if you haven't seen it, there is nothing more beautiful than seeing wild salmon spawn in this river. So if you haven't been on one of our trips, sign up. Some of this challenges, you know, it's just like, it bears repeating because we have to be pragmatic about what we're up against. And the challenges, I think, we are well known to all of us who've been working on this since the late 90s. Guess what, folks? Englebright Dam is still there. Just in case somebody thought something had happened, you know, on Earth Day. Still there, and it's highly unlikely that this, you know, innovative, courageous Republican Congress will spend the hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars to remove these dams anytime soon. And it's complicated. We also can't ignore the fact that there are 28 million cubic yards of mercury-laden sediment stored behind the dam, because one thing about the dam, it's been doing the job it was built to do, which was to hold back debris, and it is definitely doing that. You can't just flush that stuff out to sea. Here's the good news. The hydropower companies, the state and federal wildlife agencies, river conservation groups like us, national and state ones as well, we're all working together to try to do something for wild salmon. The trouble is this. We don't all yet agree on what is the best method to get salmon into the upper Yuba. So here's some of the options. Are we going to get a fish passage solution for Englebright by removing the dam? Or lowering the dam and putting a ladder over it? This photo sort of shows what that line is, idea is what we call a notch. Should lower it enough that you could then build a ladder up to it, because it's way too tall for any ladder that's ever been built at this point. That's an idea. Another way to move fish to the upper Yuba is to capture them and truck them around the dam and get them above the hydropower facilities. That's one way that's been happening in other communities, other watersheds. But it's probably no secret that it's SYRCL, right? We love the idea of dam removal. Hell, we love the idea of a big fish ladder. You know, we'll take a big fish ladder. But the power companies hate the idea. They hate this idea for a couple reasons. One, it would be super expensive. And the other is it puts an Endangered Species Act and ESA-listed fish smack dab in the heart of their operations. So this idea of trap and haul, or collect and transport, collecting the salmon below Daguerre, taking them up to the North Yuba River above New Bullard's Bar, letting them out, picking them up, driving them back. Why are you laughing? Come on, this is your taxpayer money at work. It's a field trip, John. Absolutely. No, you know, it's in all seriousness, this is an idea that has quite a bit of traction, and it actually has growing support from almost everybody at this point, in the water agencies, in the state and federal wildlife groups, and many conservation groups are seeing that this is, of a lot of bad choices, this is probably the best one. But SYRCL, we're not there yet. We haven't signed on to this idea yet. And we just don't think chauffeuring fish is a good idea. We don't think chauffeuring fish is sustainable. And honestly, we think it's premature to endorse trap and haul. We think there are still many, many unanswered questions that need to be answered. We have the feasibility study. We need to take the time to really study dam removal, to really consider the engineering and the cost and the fish, how they would do with a ladder. We can't just It'd be premature to sign up for the trucking. So we're urging all the parties to keep investigating, to figure this out. And in the meantime, let's take some steps now to restore the lower Yuba River. Our scientists, our staff have been coming up with ideas for habitat restoration. We think we could have a 4-fold increase in salmon in the next 10 years by doing this type of work. And I think there'll be no stronger advocate for fish passage than going from 10 to 40,000 fish bumping their little snouts against Engelbright. What do you think? So it's challenging, but in the meantime, let's take a moment, big breath of air, to celebrate a victory. We had a victory on the Yuba, folks, because at Daguerre Point Dam, Arshan Energy, they attempted to build a hydropower facility, and that application is canceled. And I think that SYRCL's quick response in August of 2012 put the Canadian firm on notice that this project was likely to be opposed. In fact, it probably wasn't ever going to get approved without a real big fight. Am I right? So, big win, let's celebrate it. All right. Okay. So for those of you who joined SYRCL in the 1980s, you know that protecting our river is the work of generations. That's why we're building SYRCL to last, so that we are here for the next 32 years as well. Thank you, and happy Earth Day.